Doggy, we do have some things that went down in NFL yesterday, over the weekend. And good morning. Here I am, Clay Moss, with the Amazing Grace Sports Network. And we give it to you straight, no sugarcoating. You see, I'm not here to sell you a Vegematic. I'm not here to sell you a slap chopper. I'm here to give you an honest, unbiased rundown of what happened in the NFL yesterday, who came up golden and who came up playing like junk. So let's start off with the most boringest game of the day. That involved the New England Patriots taking on the New York Jets. Now, both teams scored just 3 points in the whole first half, and they scored those 3 points, both of them, in the second quarter. So they didn't score any points in the first quarter. Each one scored 3 points in the second quarter. And then no one would score another point until 8 seconds left in the game. Well, when the New York Jets punted and the Patriots ran it back for a touchdown. That was it. That was it. That was all the excitement for the game. Now, everyone can talk about all the defense and this and that and this and that. It's really an ineptitude of offense. The defenses were good, yes, but the offense were putrid. That is the name of that game, and that's what happened. So, with 8 seconds left, the Patriots won the game. Now, Zach Wilson was terrible. He only completed 9 of 22 pass attempts. He was sacked for 22 yards. Okay? No, wait a minute. Let me get this right. He was 9 of 22 for 77 yards. Yes, he was 9 of 22 for 77 yards. He was then sacked 4 times for minus 33, which brings his net down to just 44. On the other side, Matt Jones. He was actually 23 of 27 with an assortment of dinks and dunks for 246 yards, but he was sacked 6 times for 48 yards, bringing this net down to 198 yards. Yes, we're talking about ugly. Ugly, ugly, ugly. One would have been better served just taking this time and getting a nap, okay? But New England picks up the win, and they move into second place in a tie with the Jets. 1 game away from first place, because Buffalo Bills are in first place at 7-3, and the New York Jets and the Patriots are in second place at 6-4. And let me not forget, Miami's up there with the Buffalo Bills at 7-3 also. So you got 2 teams in first place and 2 teams in second place, and that is the AFC East. Okay. Speaking of the Buffalo Bills, they defeated the Cleveland Browns 31-23 in Detroit. Why? Why were they in Detroit? Why is anybody in Detroit if they can help it? But they were in Detroit because they got like 6 feet of snow in Buffalo, and so it would have been a snowed out game. So doing the smart thing, they moved into Detroit because, well, heck, Detroit has a dome. They're smart enough to have a dome. But 31-23, and this game was not as close as the final score makes it appear because Buffalo was in total control most of the game. It was 31-16 in the fourth when the Browns scored a touchdown with 19 seconds left to get it to 23. That's why it's 31-23. Other than that, Josh Allen did not look good, but at least he did not throw 3 interceptions like he did the previous 2 games. He was 18 for 27. He had 1 touchdown. Jacoby Brissett, on the other hand, was a throwing machine. He went crazy. But stats are illustrative of how a quarterback's numbers can mean nothing, and I mean absolutely nothing. He went 28 for 41 with 324 yards and 3 touchdowns. And they lost. That's right. They lost. They lost because Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt only rushed the ball 19 times for a meager 51 yards. You got to have some balance on offense and defense. I mean, offense, whether it's passing or running, and the Browns didn't have any. That being said, Brissett looks like he's going to be there 1 more week, and because that's how long it's going to take for Deshaun Watson to get up for week 13. And then he would be replaced, so we'll see what happens then. Now, the Washington Commanders were taking on the Houston Texans, and they put the boots to the Texans as they should have. It was 23-10. Now, the Commanders jumped out to a 20-0 lead by halftime. That's right, 20-3. No, 20-0 by halftime. And then they just coasted the rest of the way Washington is happy with the win, and Houston is happy with the loss. It's a win-win situation, and everyone's happy. Houston is in the lead for the Toilet Bowl with only one win. That's right, just one win. Now, the Baltimore Ravens won a low-scoring but easy home game against the Carolina Panthers, 13-3. Now, the Ravens looked lackadaisical and bored, and as if they didn't want to be there. The Panthers looked as well as they usually do, inept. Well, actually, they looked pretty good when they had this other guy in. I'll come up with the name, but yesterday they had Baker Mayfield. And with Baker Mayfield, the Panthers offense looked unbelievably inept. He completed only 21 of 33 passes for 196 yards. He was sacked 4 times. He had 2 interceptions. Baker Mayfield couldn't find his receivers. His passes flopped like wounded ducks. He scrambles, and he has no feel for the oncoming linemen, so they hammer him when they finally catch him. Mayfield looked so bad out there, I felt sorry for him. It was like watching a horror movie and knowing something bad is going to happen to that character who's walking around in the dark with a flashlight. What's even worse is that Mayfield is giving his all. He is. And it looks as bad. So I want to know, where's PETA, P-E-T-A, Protection for Animals Agency, when you need them? Because they should be out there lobbying to have this Panther benched for his own good. It's the only humane thing to do. The Ravens quarterback, Lamar Jackson, on the other hand, was just going through the motions. He ran for a couple, he threw for a couple, and he still got the job done easily. In the game that's of interest to, well, Los Angeles and to New Orleans fans, the New Orleans Saints defeated the Super Bowl champion Los Angeles Rams 27-20. Yes, things are going downhill for the Rams, and downhill fast. Matthew Stafford, after coming back from a concussion, went out again with a concussion after being sacked around the 9-minute mark of the third quarter. The Saints were already leading 24-14, and Stafford's departure ended any chance of the Rams coming back. Why? Because the Rams were forced to insert the backup to the backup. That's right. Second season quarterback Bryce Perkins was inserted because the backup quarterback, John Wolford, was injured in last week's game. Saints quarterback Andy Dalton threw the ball only 25 times and completed 21 times for 260 yards and 3 touchdowns. 21 for 25 with 260 yards and 3 touchdowns. Okay. All right. Well, I'm not sure to make Andy Dalton looking like Drew Brees, but let's just put it this way. It's the NFL, and anything can happen. Speaking of which, the Indianapolis Colts, with their second week head coach, Jeff Saturday, almost beat the creme de la creme of the NFL season this season, the creme de la creme of the NFL season. That would be the Philadelphia Eagles. They were this close. Going into the fourth, the Colts led 13-3. Then they led 16-10 with 4 minutes left in the game. The Eagles managed a touchdown with only a minute and 30 seconds left in the game and escaped with a 17-16 win. Close, but no cigar for Jeff Saturday on Sunday. The Atlanta Falcons kept their playoff hopes alive by defeating the Chicago Bears. But then again, who doesn't? This game featured a lot of passing, a lot of rushing, nonstop action, and plenty of eye-catching highlight reel. No, it didn't. No, okay. No, it really didn't. This game featured none of those. It did, however, have 6 fumbles and an interception weaved in among the lowlights. Marcus Mariota continues to unimpress, going 13 for 20 with 1 touchdown. Now, Atlanta won, but Atlanta fans are in agony with this win because by winning this game and only being 1 game behind the division leader Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they are stuck with Mariota for the foreseeable future because there's no way the rookie's going to get inserted into the game when they're still in the playoff picture. Barely, but they are there. Anyway, moving on to the Bears. Justin Fields got beat up for most of the game. He was 14 for 21 with 153 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, and he was sacked 4 times and ran for his life throughout most of the game. The Bears have no defense to speak of. Management doesn't seem to care. They traded away all their best defensive players. And I'm sorry, Chicago fans, but it looks bad. And it's only going to get worse for the rest of the season. But if you want to root for a winning team, there's always the Detroit Lions. They've won 3 in a row. Now, in what could be the top candidate for game of the day on many levels, the Detroit Lions, yes, your Detroit Lions, yes, my Detroit Lions, our nation's beloved Detroit Lions went into the Meadowlands of New Jersey and put a whooping on the New York Football Giants, 31-18. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, and sports fans everywhere, you heard right, 31-18. And not only did Detroit win their 3rd consecutive win, which had not happened since 2017, the Lions did it with defense. And by rushing the ball. Jeff Goff was a mediocre 17 for 26 with no touchdowns. But Detroit's defense forced 3 turnovers, and the firm of Jackson, Swift, and Williams rushed for 166 yards. Detroit possessed the ball longer, and by doing so, they controlled the game. The Lions now have a better record than both the Chicago Bears and the Green Bay Packers. They are in 2nd place in the NFC Central, and at this point in time, no one can remember when the last time that happened. I surely can't. But we're going to get some stats. So, happy days are here again for Detroit, in the city of Detroit, when it comes to football. Now, speaking of teasers, we have to bring up the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas, well, yes. Dallas, when it doesn't matter, as I predicted, went into Minneapolis and clobbered the Minnesota Vikings 40-3. That's right, 40-3. This is after losing to Green Bay 2 weeks ago, when it did matter. But I digress. They went into Minnesota and beat them 40-3. They did whatever they wanted, whenever they wanted. And yes, Dak Prescott racked up meaningless yards. He threw for 225 and 2 touchdowns, and he upped his QBR when it doesn't mean anything. Quarterback, Dallas running back Tony Pollard had a career day with 100 yards receiving and 80 yards rushing. No one could stop him on either end. They should have just gave him the ball and just get out the way. Minnesota has been more lucky than good, from my observation. But yesterday, that luck ran out, and they crapped out big time. They had less than 200 yards total and were 1 for 11 on 3rd downs. 1 for 11. Yes, when you're 1 for 11, you probably can only score 1 field goal for the whole game. The game was 23-3 at halftime, and they could have called it then. At the start of the 4th quarter, it was 37-3, a score which screams for intervention. Now, whether it's Little League, whether it's boxing, okay, let me just put it this way. There's a mercy rule. And in boxing, they have the fighter's corner can throw in the towel, or the referee can stop the carnage by awarding a technical knockout. Any of those 2 things, somebody should have intervened and stopped this game at the 4th quarter. And it would have been useful to everybody, for the Cowboys and for the Vikings. Kirk Cousins was sacked 7 times for 49 yards, and he could have been sacked more. Cousins is still soaking in an ice tub somewhere in Minnesota right now. Thank God that game is over. The Cincinnati Bengals traveled to Pittsburgh and slapped the taste out of the Steelers' mouth. The final score was 37-30, but the game was essentially over by the fourth quarter when Cincinnati led 37-23. Cincinnati quarterback Joe Burrow went 24 for 39, 355 yards, and 4 touchdowns. And that pretty much says it right there. That was it. But they only ran the ball 24 times for 62. Well, yeah, 24 times for 62 yards. But they didn't have to because they threw. The other 9 points came on field goals. With this win, Cincinnati stays within 1 game of the Baltimore Ravens in the division lead. Pittsburgh, on the other hand, is out of the playoff picture for all intensive purposes. They will tease their fans in the upcoming games. Yes, they'll win a couple. They'll look good and give their fans some hope that next year something's going to change. Why? Because they have a weak schedule from here on out. They might even get to 500 and once again salvage Mike Tomlin's record of never having a losing season. But that's it. That's all. That's all you have to look for, Pittsburgh fans. And honestly, you should demand more. The lovable, losing Las Vegas Raiders limped into Denver, ready to get lapped yet again. But the Broncos, they wouldn't comply with it. They didn't want to take it out on the Los Angeles Vegas. They had pity on them. Okay, let's just be honest. The Broncos suck. Okay, actually, I'm going to tell you something. Watching the game, Russell Wilson was not that bad. He completed a lot of passes and looked good in some times. But Las Vegas came in there and they hit the jackpot with a 22-16 win. Let's just get this over with. Yes, they beat them 22-16. These two teams had combined for just 6 wins in 11 weeks between the two of them, 3 apiece. Now, there's been a serious run of bad luck for these two franchises. The quarterbacks of these two teams, Derek Carr and Russell Wilson, are the epitome of bad gambles that keep getting worse. The choices for coaches, Nathaniel Hackett and Josh Daniels, have clouds over them, raining on them. It has been bad luck, bad play, bad timing for management of these franchises, and now they're busted. See, they're so bad that even when they lose. And when they win, they lose. Take it, for example, Las Vegas. They were in the running for the worst record. Now they're tied with the Bears, the Broncos, the Browns, the Jaguars, the Panthers, the Rams, and the Steelers with 3 wins. They can't lose for winning or win for losing. Okay. In the other game of the day that would qualify for the top candidate of game of the day, with the Detroit Lions beating the New York Giants, we have the Kansas City Chiefs taking on the Los Angeles Chargers in Los Angeles. You know, it's one of these things you wish you just had a tape, you can just run it back. I'm looking right at, I'm just thinking at the same time as I'm thinking about this. Anyway, yes, the Kansas City Chiefs went into Los Angeles to play the Chargers. And everyone thought it was going to be a cakewalk. I mean, the Chargers, seriously, they played up to the competition or they played down to the competition. In the Chiefs' case, they played up to it. This game was a barn burner. Everything that I said the other game had, Atlanta Falcons, when they didn't have the highlight reels, the good runs, the great catches, the great quarterback play, happened in this one. So Kansas City Chiefs with the magician, Pat Mahomes, the magical Pat Mahomes, defeated the Los Angeles Chargers 30-27. And this one, like I said, had everything. It featured the 2 best quarterbacks in the league. Yes, I said it. The 2 best quarterbacks in the league are Pat Mahomes and Justin Herbert. Lamar Jackson, he's a good running back who can throw the ball, but he's not in the class of these 2 guys when it comes to throwing the ball. This game featured a passing game. It featured a rushing game. It featured good defense and runs. It had a photo finish ending. So let's start off with it. Kansas City scored first with a field goal. Then the Chargers scored a touchdown. And from there, back and forth it went. Now, going into the fourth quarter, the Chargers led 20-16, but Kansas City had driven 80 yards in 10 plays and were threatening. Early in the fourth quarter, Kansas City scored to make it 23-16, I believe. And then the team exchanged 2 fumbles. The Chargers fumbled the ball. Kansas City had it for about 6 minutes, and then they fumbled the ball. And then the Chargers got the ball back and scored a touchdown, making it 27-23. Yes, things look dire for the Kansas City Chiefs. But what happened? Pat Mahomes reached into his bag of tricks, pulled a couple of rabbits out of his hat, made the ball disappear and then reappear into his receiver's arms, and drove the ball down the field. I think that pretty much says it all. Drove the ball down the field and scored a touchdown with 30 seconds left in the game. That, ladies and friends, ladies and gentlemen, my friends and sports fans everywhere, that is playing football. That is a quarterback. That is a good team. Now, the Chargers, playing up to the competition or playing down to the competition, can't seem to get over the hump. And I think they have to make a decision. They need to go out and get some weapons so Herbert can look like a top-flight quarterback all of the time so that he can make plays happen. Because given the chance and the opportunity, his arm is just as good as Pat Mahomes. Not many people are shifty as Pat Mahomes, but Herbert comes second place. He makes things happen out of nothing. He can throw a sidearm. He can throw it backwards. He can throw it between his legs. He makes things happen. He can throw his receiver open. He can back shoulder his receiver. He can make these things happen. So that in a nutshell is what happened in the NFL Week 11. We had some ups. We had some downs. Most of all, we had Detroit winning. And with Detroit winning, it goes to show you the sun will come out tomorrow. Bet your bottom dollar that tomorrow there'll be sun. Tomorrow, I love you. Tomorrow, you're only a day away. Well, I'll see you guys tomorrow.